Man, movies have really taken a turn in recent years. It's like whenever I turn on anything made since 2019, I'm overwhelmed with projects that make men who back in the day would have been these stoic, masculine and heroic individuals, now portrayed as weak-minded, pathetic, and basically undermined in every way, constantly inferior to some female counterpart. Now, I know characters like this were coming to fruition before 2019, but I like to use 2019 as like a timestamp, as that's the year that the once MCU ended for good and went on to become the infamous MCU, replacing every fucking male protagonist with a female version and becoming an avenue for shit woke writers to push their agenda instead of creating a good story that makes any sense. Anyway, I've expressed enough just how disappointed I am in Marvel, so let's move on, shall we? So, it might be hard to remember, but there was once a time where films were made purely for entertainment and nothing else. Now, I'm not saying they were always good, because they certainly weren't. But you knew that the people behind the film were putting in their best effort to make something that audiences could enjoy, and they had a real passion and enthusiasm for their craft. And unlike nowadays, there were genuine movie stars and big names in the industry where people would go and see a film purely because their favourite actor was in it, rather than their favourite character. We're talking people like John Wayne, Audrey Hepburn, Marlon Brando, Clint Eastwood, Arnold Schwarzenegger. Heck, even Elvis Presley had his share of movie stardom, and there's so many more I could name. And what's special about figures like Clint Eastwood specifically, and why his movies were and still are so popular and well known, is because his characters portrayed a man which young men could admire and look to resemble, apart from the killing, of course. Anyway, on the big screen, he was so cool, so intimidating, and it's why he was and still is so well known for his work. Anyway, in years to come, more movies would come about, and they would portray a certain type of man which in different ways influenced us to change how we act and behave in the real world, and they represented characteristics that we all admire and strive for. These are films like Taxi Driver, Fight Club, American Beauty, American Psycho, Drive, The Wolf of Wall Street, and Nightcrawler. There were also films like Rocky, which showed a man determined to achieve his goal, giving everything he has into being the best at what he does, and it motivated viewers to get off their ass and just start putting in some work. Even 300 or Gladiator represented men who are leaders, warriors made for battle, ready to go to war in physical combat and lose their life for their people at any time. Each of the characters in these films had their flaws, but they each represented traits that guys strive for, being charming, non-conforming, honest, routine-oriented, obsessed, a leader, a warrior, and in a world today that wants to keep you weak, where being masculine is practically villainized and shamed upon, media like this is not just a form of escapism, but something that resonates with men and their primal urges deep down, and seeing men on screen who struggle to embrace characteristics and elements of who they truly are, which conflict with who they want to be, is something that a lot of guys can relate to, and when it's depicted in an artistic and visual way in these movies, young men just can't get enough of it. These kind of movies were a rare occurrence, something special, and when you would watch them for the first time, something inside of you just resonated with it, and it was a feeling that you couldn't quite describe, and it's difficult to replicate. So, what went wrong? Well, over the years, while the movies that I previously talked about were being released, there was also a sideline of films where the guy we were rooting for wasn't anything like these characters, and didn't really have any admirable qualities, but somehow still came up on top. See, in the movie industry, there comes a time where certain character tropes or cliches become so popular that studios just can't help but repeat them. Think the nerdy guy who eventually gets the hot girl, the investigator who does one last case before retiring, or the huge breakfasts that no one even takes a bite of, and the high school where every teenager looks at least 30. Now, one that stands out here, and certainly gave me my fair share of false hope back in the day, was the nerdy, shy and awkward guy getting the hot girl. But see, in reality, this would never happen, as she'd be with the guy who's most likely tall, athletic, and portrays characteristics that girls in general find very attractive, certainly back in the day. Why would she choose the nerdy guy that doesn't have anything going for him, when she can pick from basically anyone she wants? In these movies, it would be way more inspiring if we saw the guy put in some work, become the best version of himself, and then when he actually has something going for him, like he's better looking, he's more athletic now, it would make more sense then that the girl would be attracted to him. Right? That's how you get the girl. Or, once you've improved your looks and whatnot, you'd have more options anyway, so you'd inevitably just be able to attract other girls who are just as or more attractive. Now, back in the day, it was easy to grow up and accept that these movie tropes were clearly something that Hollywood just wanted to fantasize and push the guys deprived of female attention, who would just stuff themselves with false hope and keep coming back for more. But inevitably, you begin to grow up, live life a little more, realize that it's all bullshit, and move forward accordingly. At least, this is how one would think before social media. as tiny minorities of people who think masculinity is somehow toxic began to spread their voice through means like social media. These views on the world and identity, etc., began to spread like wildfire. People began to blindly view these minority viewpoints and agendas as the truth, which basically became a repeating cycle where we now have people who are woke, where basic facts and truths about the world no longer exist, and apparently everything is based on how you feel. But surely this couldn't infect film. Surely the entertainment companies can stay out of it and just continue focusing on doing their job, providing good storytelling and male characters which people can enjoy. But see, as I said before, social media is accessible to anyone with the internet. So basically every single worker at these companies would be on social media one way or another, and this is where the infection of woke ideology entered mainstream media. And so it began. Now with all this, there's been an overwhelming wave of female-led movies. Now I can't speak for every female-led movie, but what you see in a lot of them is either the strong female character who has basically no flaws and is extremely competent from the get-go, or the Mary Sue, who's basically just a self-insert by one of the writers who wants to project her own issues and blame the world and men around her for her problems. All I'll say is, Hollywood, there's a right way to bringing this strong female character idea to life, and there's a wrong way. And the difference is that with the former, you put the character first, not the fact that she's a woman. You know, it just is a sad time to be a man in Hollywood, but one can only hope that cinema takes a 180 soon enough and makes movies again that don't shame men, but instead uplift them, make them feel proud of what they accomplish, and promote true masculinity instead of what we're getting now. But where do we go from here? Well, I mean, it's really as simple as just not watching anything that comes out. But if you're curious, you know, you've got plenty of great content creators on the platform to let you in on if a project is worth seeing or not. Because the worst thing that can happen to a fan of cinema is spending 2 hours in a dark room, forgetting about the outside world, just for it to be a waste of time. And no one wants that, so just let us do the time wasting for you. Come on now. Anyway, I really appreciate you for watching the video until the end. Like and subscribe if you want, it's up to you. And I'll see you around. Bye.